Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that'll help you become your best self, and today we are talking about things that affect your depression. But before we jump into that, I want to as always, remind you to come say hi to me on Instagram. I am at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. I would love to talk to you. Send me a DM. We can chat. I can answer any questions, comments, concerns, prayer requests, feedback, topics, suggestions, or if you just want to, become friends online, I would love that as well. You can also send me an email to realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com, or you're welcome to go on my website and fill out the contact me form there. The website is sabrinajoy.com, and you can also sign up for my newsletter there. The first the first issue of the newsletter went out last Friday morning. It was very exciting. I was excited, and then I'm excited for the next one. And I think right now we're going to do every other week. And then we'll see how people like it. Maybe we'll pull back to monthly, or maybe if people still like it, we'll do every other week. So the next time that you can get it will be in like a little bit less than 2 weeks. So go look in the show notes below. You can go to the website, you can sign up, and you can be there for the next issue, which I believe it's going to be fun. And we're going to do some contests in there too. Also, there is a link to download a free copy of 50 questions to become more self-aware. It's just a list of questions that'll help you start your self-awareness journey and understand yourself better and really get into that groove. So check all that out when you have a chance, but let's go ahead and jump into today's episode, which again is things that affect your depression. As you know, as I've shared, I'm very open about it. I'm very open about just about everything that's going on in my life or has happened in my life. I would say the only things I don't really talk about are my daughter, because, privacy. And, if I ask her if I can share something, I will. But if I need to, I will ask her. And then really deep details of my husband's life because, again, privacy. But I do struggle with depression, obviously, right? Because I've talked about depression, anxiety, self-harm, all these kind of things. And today we're going to talk about depression, which it's a big deal, right? So I struggle with depression. I'm sure I have been struggling with it longer than I realized, but I started to realize it when I was in college. And, I don't struggle as much as I used to because of my investment in time in talk therapy, my own self-help journey of reading so many different kind of books, doing those workbooks and journals, finding helpful content online, and discovering what works best for me in terms of medicine, which turned out to be something more natural, which I'm super grateful for, which also includes neurofeedback, which I am just in love with. And if you want more information about my experience with neurofeedback, if you want to know more about it, is from the perspective of someone doing it on the regular. I do it every 3 to 4 weeks now. It used to be every week or every other week. And it's been absolutely phenomenal for my depression and anxiety and headaches and stress. So yeah, I just take the more natural approach because that's what works for me. I have nothing against medication. It just didn't work for me. And, I know, enough talking about me, I know there are many other people that listen here that are struggling with depression because it is such a tough journey. And it feels like a roller coaster some of the time, up and down, all around. I say that all the time, all around the town with your emotions. And can be confusing if you don't know what is affecting it and possibly contributing to more pain than normal or even than necessary, right? And I want to bring this up. So a while back, a listener asked me to talk about triggers for depression because I created an episode talking about triggers for anxiety because I thought it was really important to know what triggers your anxiety. It's super important because if you're aware of your triggers, then it kind of gives you a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit more control over not allowing our emotions and these things that we're struggling with control us and kind of cut back on those things impeding in our life. And so, they asked me to do one about depression, and I was hesitant to do so because diving into the inner workings of depression is a much deeper well than anxiety. And I believe in that episode, anxiety, I did talk about, in addition to talking about the things that trigger our anxiety, also talking about how it can come up and manifest in our life. And, depression starts from so many more places, many more experiences, many more happenings in our diverse lives. But I decided that it was important enough for someone, if it was, since it was important enough for someone to ask me to talk about it, I finally found a way that I feel I can talk about it, I can be helpful, I will do it justice, and doesn't involve me talking about how depression comes about. It's just not going to be, maybe in the future I'll talk about that, but I just don't feel like talking about all of the different ways that depression can come about will be helpful. You can tell me otherwise, share with me your thoughts, and I can figure that out for you if you want me to. But it's so diverse, right? It's so diverse. And you might think, well, how are you going to talk about like what affects it and how that's not going to be similar to talking about how we can develop it? Because it highly depends on your own personal experience. And yeah, we can talk about it in like common categories, which could be helpful. But I feel like just talking about it this way will definitely be helpful. We'll speak to the request for triggers for depression. And I won't feel like I'm talking outside of my like realm of research and experience, if that makes sense. Because I'm not here to BS you guys and pretend like I know everything, because I absolutely do not. I don't. And I want you to know that, because I'm not here to try to pretend. I'm here to be as transparent and authentic as I possibly can, because that's important to me. That is like the type of like person, role model, whatever you want to call me, to be. And I want to encourage other people to do the same. And it's not a negative thing. If you don't know something, it actually is an opportunity for you to learn something and be filled with information by someone else that knows that thing better. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about the things in life that can affect depression. So like I mentioned, depression can begin in our lives due to so many different experiences, but there is some common ground in what can affect it in a day-to-day kind of way. So I'm going to share with you what affects depression negatively, which can also be seen as a trigger. There are many things that can help depression. So also, if that's something that you would like me to talk about, like the positive things that can affect depression and make it better, make it easier, make it more controllable, I would love to talk about that too. But you have to let me know if you are interested in that by either sending me an email, DM me on Instagram, whatever you want to do. So I have 7 of them that I want to share with you today. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first one right off the bat, I just kind of wanted to like get it in and get it out, because it's probably like one of the most common ones. I'm not really going to talk a lot about it because again, it's most widely known. So the first one I want to mention that can affect your depression is trauma and stressful events. And you're probably like, yeah, I know. We all know, right? That's like super common. Many of these are actually common, but I found these to be like the ones that are most important for me to talk to you about today. Trauma and stressful events. Of course, if you go through trauma, and this can even be trauma that you went through years ago. A lot of my depression is due to trauma that I went through years and years ago, right? Or it can be trauma that just happened, or stressful events that happen. And I'm not saying that trauma and stressful events are the same thing at all whatsoever. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like lumping those things together, like you know what those are. And so it could be a stressful event, like that could definitely differ person to person. And so can experiencing a trauma, because for me, something that might appear to be traumatic for someone might just seem like a stressful event to me, and vice versa, right? And I think it's just because of some of the like hard, terrible things that I've been through, and experiencing something that's not as bad as those things, how I see it, that thing might still be traumatic to someone else because they haven't gone through the other hard things that I've been through. So does that make sense? So just know that. Just know that, like, it's not a contest, okay? It's not like, who has the worst trauma? Like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We are just acknowledging that, like, whatever we found to be traumatic or whatever we found to be super stressful can definitely contribute to our depression. and making it worse, and really like stirring it up, especially if you're having like a good stretch of time where you really weren't feeling like those depression symptoms were laying deep into you, or laying on thick to you. You feel like you're feeling good, right? Because I feel like with depression, at least personally, and what I've read online, is that you can go through these patches of time where you feel like everything is fine and you feel stable and everything is moving and grooving and life feels great. You feel good. You're like, I feel good. And sometimes an event or an experience or a trigger can come along and kind of just like throw everything out of whack. It's like throwing a wrench into some sort of mechanical machine, and it's like can quickly or like over like a short period of time break things down. So just keep that in mind. It's a very obvious one, which is why I want to just like get it out of the way and remind you, yes, trauma and stressful events, even stressful events like maybe you have to speak in front of a really big group of people and you're dealing with depression, and it's stressful because you have anxiety of whether it's going to go bad or not. Maybe a previous situation had gone bad and now you're like worried about this one, and then you get all caught up in your mind and how you feel like you did. Again, it can negatively affect your depression. Number two is also like I did a package deal here. Rejection and failures. Because a lot of us can see rejection as a failure, as something that we did not succeed in because we were rejected. And so this could be a job, this could be with people in our life, this could be, opportunities, whatever it is. And this is likely to happen if this happens multiple times over. Like the need for approval for some people, I would say definitely in myself, is higher in some. Like for me, my need for approval definitely sky high, too high. Working on it every day, but it's so difficult. And this high need for approval can cause stress that leads to like a downward spiral of self-esteem, which kind of like shoots down into the toilet, and possible depression if nothing changes. Like if you just continue to get hit with rejection, or you continue to go through failure and you lack the inability to see failures and mistakes, as I talk about all the time, as an amazing learning opportunity. And this can also be doubled down if you are only surrounded by people that, give you grief and contribute to the pain that you experience by negatively, commenting on your mistakes and failures. You don't have any positive people speaking into your life saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay that you made this mistake. It's okay that you have experienced this failure. It's actually a really good thing. It's actually something that's going to make you stronger. It's actually going to have you better understand like what needs to change, what needs to get better, what needs to be left behind, and what needs to be added. You know what I mean? And so if you don't have those people in your life, whether it's like real life people you see, or people on the internet, or like a coach, a mentor, a therapist, whomever, a family member that you trust, if you don't have those people in your life, you are going to struggle to be able to understand that concept and live your life by it. So, rejection and failures can definitely affect your depression if it just continues to happen, and if there's no positive reinforcement. There has to be positive reinforcement for you to be able to understand, if you don't already have that mindset, that it's okay to go through those things. We all go through these things. We need to find our opportunity for strength in every single one of those experiences, because if we don't, number one, you are wasting a good opportunity to do so, and number two, then you will not see the benefit in going through those things, and you will allow it to bring you down when really you need it to pat you on the back and shoot you up in a positive way, like you can do it, like boost your confidence. It kind of sounded bad, but you know what? Boost your confidence. Be excited, So rejection and failures definitely can affect your depression, because you don't want anything to contribute to you falling down into what I call the pit of despair, which is also can be seen as depression. No one wants that. So rejection and failures, be on the lookout for that. And please, this is just an aside, have at least one positive person in your life that can feed into your mindset, into your soul, into your heart, that will keep you from always tipping to what I would say like the dark side, the pit of despair. Number 3, negative thought patterns. Of course. So when we're all like happy-go-lucky, positive thoughts, feeling on top of the world, we have positive reinforcement, positive influence in our life, we feel good. We feel like we can emotionally recover, build stronger emotional resilience in those times. But if we are stuck with negative thought patterns, you can continue to believe any negative thoughts that come in without actually taking the time to examine them and see if there's any truth in what you're thinking, which a lot of times the things that come into our mind, which are filtered through what other people say and what we see on TV and what we ingest in social media and like all these other things, comparing ourselves to other people, judgments, whatever, can all filter in and become thoughts and mindsets in our mind. And it doesn't mean it's all true, right? Because a lot of this can just definitely be lies because we consume it, and everything we consume is not truth. It's not wisdom. It's not knowledge that we need to carry and file away in our mind. So if we get stuck in our thoughts, we accept thoughts that we don't examine and see if there's any truth to them, or we believe any negativity that is thrown our way, when someone is like throwing out nasty opinions or telling us, or really just like telling us negative things about ourselves that they think about us. They're like, oh, you're terrible, you're ugly, you're stupid, whatever. They're saying these terrible things about you and you believe them. Again, this will cause you to fall into the pit of despair. This will cause like your depression to really want to set up camp and be like, yep, I'm going to believe all this crap, and now I'm going to feel really bad about myself, and now I'm going to be sad, and now I'm going to want to isolate socially. I'm going to want to like not be a part of anything because my self-worth is also impacted based upon what they say, because I'm allowing these mindsets to take up residence without even having to pay rent. So negative thought patterns, I'd say, was like one of the biggest things that can affect your depression that you already have, and make it worse. So you have to be on your toes with these things because they can easily float in with the simple sight of seeing an influencer on a social media app just talking about how great their life is, right? And then you immediately ingesting that and being like, oh, they have this great life. Why don't I have that great life? I'm like, feel like I'm in the same season of life as they are. I don't have everything they have. I feel like I've done everything I could do to do that. And then it just spirals from there. It's just like this negative, cyclical thing that you can easily get caught in. So you have to be on guard with negative thought patterns. You have to continuously question, like, is this true? What is this? Where is the proof that this is based on? Who said it? Like, how do they actually care about me? What are they trying to gain out of it? You got to be a little sus if you're dealing with negative thought patterns in the beginning, so that you can sniff out the imposters, the fakes, the garbage that you don't need to keep there. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is a big one. It's actually one that it was helpful to us to realize. It was a really important factor in discovering that our daughter was struggling with depression, which is lack of sleep. So when you lack good sleep, it can go both ways, of course. But when you lack sleep, clinical studies have shown that less than 6 hours of sleep a night increases the risk of depression. And so if you already have depression, which is what we're talking about, it can just make it even worse, right? And, the study was showing that like a majority of depressed people, so that was like, I believe there was like 75% of people that they had in that clinical study actually have insomnia. So with that in itself, not being able to sleep creates that cyclical effect for this. And it's so much harder to get out of that and want to sleep more if you're having trouble sleeping, because maybe you're continually thinking about the problems and the issues that you're going through and how you don't know how to fix this, that, and the other, or you're worrying about other people's opinions, or you're worrying about how to solve like real life problems like bills and jobs and relationships and all of these things. So the lack of sleep will definitely just continue to chip away at your ability to handle your depression. So you have to recognize that this is an issue and find a way to solve it. Sleeping, excessively is also like a really big part of some people that have depression. That was definitely our daughter. Our daughter was like sleeping a lot, because it's a way for you to just get away from the world, get away from your problems, get away from your feelings. You feel exhausted by everything that you're going through and you just want to sleep. You don't want to do anything. And so if you are not on top of your sleep, so whether you're sleeping too much or you're not sleeping enough, it's definitely something that will affect your depression significantly. And I've seen it in more than just the example that I'm using, in myself for sure. Even recently, where I've had bouts of like not being able to sleep, and it was due to like depression and anxiety and things that I'm going through, and allowing those things to consume me. Because this might be hard for some people to realize, but you're allowing whatever it is to consume you when you need to find a way that works best for you to take control back. And it sounds easier than it is, of course, most things do, but it's important for you to just start realizing these things that are causing you issues, contributing to your depression being worse when you feel like you're on a roll for things to get better. So just something to consider, lack of sleep. Number five is an easy, quick one, but it's something that I have personally dealt with, and I know other people have, is illness. So if you're going through an illness, it definitely can negatively affect your depression, of course. So it's having an illness. So whether it's actually like some sort of illness that's diagnosed at the doctor, like a serious like problem that you're going through. So like for me, I have an autoimmune disorder. Some people like will have like a cancer or something else that's going on with their body that's just, whatever it is, because it could be like any kind of thing. Maybe it's your head, maybe it's your legs, maybe it's your arm, maybe it's your chest, like whatever it is that you're dealing with. Illness in general, even if you're just like really, really, really sick, like if you got the thing during the pandemic, it's a heavy burden to carry, right? Because a lot of people, when they did get the pandemic, it was some shame and the burden of having to take off work, and how are you going to pay your bills if you aren't able to go to work, and how are you going to like protect anyone else in your household from getting it since it spreads so easily, and maybe you didn't want to do anything to prevent it from happening, and now you feel embarrassed of that and all of these things, and then it causes you to feel, and then it just like negatively impacts your depression, right? But so whether it's just like an illness that's like identified through like some sort of doctor visit with symptoms, or like an illness that can be passed along, that just like really grabs onto you, like could even be like a bad case of like the flu or something like that. It's a heavy burden to carry around when you have an illness, and it can take a lot out of you. It just takes so much from you, especially if you don't realize that you have an issue. So an example of that is like if you have some sort of like nutrition deficiency, you don't realize that the reason why you are so tired and why you feel like you're doing everything you can to, be in shape, where you're like you feel like you're eating the right foods, but some are still like not making you feel good. You're working out and you're taking breaks and you're drinking water and you feel like you're doing everything you're doing, but you don't realize that something is off. And this is also just like a small tangent to remind you that we all need to advocate for ourselves. So we need to have the confidence to know that we need to tell people when we are not feeling well. We need to go into whatever healthcare setting that we have and let them know, hey, I don't feel well. And some people might brush you off, which is why you have to advocate for yourself. You have to be Have confidence in yourself that you need to tell someone and they need to do something. Okay. This happened to me for the longest time where I would just go to like a normal doctor and I would tell them I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with this. And everyone, I'm not kidding, the majority of people would say it's because, oh, well, you just need to lose weight. And I would just be like, what? I'm like, I am losing weight. I am working out. I am working on my health. That's not just the reason, but every answer was like, oh, you're just overweight. That's why you're feeling this. And I can understand how that could be the answer for some things, but for the things I was going through, it wasn't. And so I finally just like had enough, and I found a more natural doctor, a naturopath, and who does like regular medicine, but also leans more into like natural stuff first, And they actually listened to me and actually ran tests and will actually do things when I ask them to do it just to see. And even if it's wrong, it's like, okay, well, at least you trusted me, the patient, to do it when I asked you, or you'll give me real life advice. We'll go back and forth and we will figure it out together, as opposed to just being like, nope, you're just fat. That's basically what I was getting. And so it can be really frustrating. So if you don't even know, or you're trying to be out here advocating for yourself, you got to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself in so many things in life, but definitely when it comes to your body, do not be ashamed to do that. But anyway, back to this. So having an illness, even if it's a temporary illness, it's a lot of burden to carry. But if it's like a long-term illness, something that you have to deal with every single day, in and out, it can be a lot. It can cause your depression to kind of plummet, because if you feel like things aren't getting better, just depending on you following your protocol to a T, and it's just so frustrating. It can make you lose hope that things are actually going to get better, things are actually going to turn around. And so just realize, if you're going through that, or if you're investigating whether you have an illness or something going on with your body, it can definitely affect your depression immensely. Yeah, especially the part where you're like, you don't even realize it. When you don't even realize it, you're just like, oh, I feel this way. And you're trying to figure it out. And it's even more frustrating because you haven't had any like direction or help to figure out what the heck is going on, especially if you don't have the team that's supporting you. So just something to consider. Illness, heavy burden, takes a lot from you. It can definitely contribute to your depression. Number six is a good one. Definitely one that I feel like is more common in like the north, where it gets really, really dark in the wintertime. So number 6 is seasonal changes. So seasonal affective disorder is generally something that has symptoms that are worse during the fall and winter time, because there is less sunlight. So I have people in my family that are affected by this. I actually grew up in Alaska, and so that is like one of the biggest places where people have seasonal affective disorder, because, a good portion of the year, we don't have a lot of sun. We have sun, okay? Just so you know, we have sun. And I grew up in Anchorage, so it's like the biggest city in the state. And and I didn't live like in the north. I lived in like the southern part of the state. And so the more north you go, the less sunlight you would definitely get during the wintertime. And the more sunlight you get during the summertime, though. So, flip-flops. But anyway, it's definitely something I understand. I did not experience it, though. And I think it's because I grew up there. I was born and raised. So not having a lot of sunlight in the wintertime, in the fall time, did not bother me. Because the inverse of summer was like you had so much sunlight until like midnight at night. And so it didn't bother me, but I know a lot of people that it does bother. I will tell you that to the point, not having that sunshine that you're used to or that you depend on to help you regulate your mood can definitely affect your depression. And so a lot of people go through more depression in the fall and winter time with that lack of sun, because it just affects the way they feel. It affects their ability to feel motivated, inspired, and want to get up and enjoy their day. Now, on the inverse of this, I did look at a study, but a lot of people don't suffer it the opposite in the summer and springtime. And I would say that I kind of experience it in the summertime, but I feel like it has more to do with like what summer represents for me. So summer represents for me this time where we're all like super self-conscious about how we look and whether we have the money to do fun things. And there is less hustle and bustle, I feel like, in the summertime, personally for me and what I grew up with. And the fact that we only have like one kid, so we don't generally like having to shuttle everyone over to like different programs and stuff like that. But generally, I will experience a little bit more depression in the summertime because, again, the sunshine thing, I enjoy sunshine, but it doesn't like really affect me that much. It's more of like the time of year that kind of gets me down. And so summertime, I will experience a little bit more depression just because of what it means to me. Um, and I don't feel like I have that comfort of cold and darkness and just the comfort of, I don't know, of both being at home and being out and having things to do. Like in the fall and winter and springtime, even, I have things to do. In the summertime, it feels like we have less to do. And it's like, when the devil's hands are idle, it's like that whole phrase of like, well, you have less to do and you have more time to criticize yourself and come down on yourself and have negative thoughts. So I just wanted to mention that in case anyone else is like, no, I'm not really affected by that, especially if you live somewhere that doesn't really experience a significant amount of darkness in the wintertime. We do here in Washington, where I live now, not as much as Alaska, but anyway. And just in case someone else is like feeling the same about summer, they're like, no, I definitely feel more depressed in the summer. Then I got you. I feel you. Me too. Okay, so the last one, number 7 of things that can affect your depression. Again, this is not a conclusive list, just a list of things that I thought were very important for me to bring up and share with you. Number 7 is relationship issues. Of course. And I wanted to put relationship issues and not just like a specific relationship thing because there are a myriad of things under the header of relationships that can affect your depression. So whether it's a breakup or an argument or a separation, power issues, abuse, and this is not just with like romantic partners. This can also be like with your family, with your friends, maybe even relationship problems at work with coworkers, with your bosses. So any type of relationship that you can consider, maybe you have kids and you guys are just fighting and having issues, falling outs. It can drastically affect your depression to the point where you don't even want to fight anymore to problem solve these issues, and you just let them be, and these relationships can start to deteriorate, right? And it's a lot more work to get it back to functioning when you fall into depression because of it and you allow it to just like fade away, kind of. And so it's just important that if you realize that you're having relationship issues, you should try your best to do something if you can. And if the other person is willing, to fix it, to problem solve it, to figure out what needs to happen and what needs to change, especially if you know that it is greatly affecting your depression and you do feel this pull to just like pull away, to distance yourself, and that's not going to fix the problem. That's not going to make anything better. If anything, it's going to make things worse because there's no conclusion, there's no resolution to the problems, to the issues that you're having. Now, I understand if there's like a breakup, like a divorce or something like that, like you might want to pull away, but you also might want to get support for those life-altering changes. You might want to have someone like check in on you. You might want to start like see a therapist, see a coach, see a mentor. You might want to join a group. You might want to make sure that you have plans to leave the house, to still immerse yourself in people, in community, so that you don't lean more in depression and fall into the pit of despair. So it's just important for you to realize that problems and issues in relationships, not just romantic relationships, can affect your depression, which happened to me a lot in college with my terrible relationship with my father. because we had a lot of relationship issues and it just got worse and I got worse and it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. It's really what helped me like realize that I was struggling with depression. So anyway, that is all 7 that I want to share with you today. And I just wanted to make sure that I remind you that in seeing all these, go online and see if there's more if you want. If you feel like this was not a good enough list for you, or maybe it doesn't hit on one that you think might be affecting your depression. But the best way for you to become aware of like what things and what triggers you to develop like that, well, to be aware of like what triggers and things like affect your depression is to become more self-aware and keep track of what affects your depression. Keep like an actual list, like what causes you to feel worse and feel better. Like I said, I can talk about feeling better in the future if you want me to, just have to let me know. But keep track of both. Maybe you did something and you just like felt better. That's great. You should definitely note that. So actually keep track of those things somewhere and see if there's any correlations also. And then you can review those and see if you need or you can make any changes in your life to not necessarily run away from those triggers, but make it easier for you to deal in those experiences and situations if you have to continue to be exposed to those things. So anyway, that's everything that I have for you today in regards to things that affect your depression. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, me, Sabrina. Thank you so much for listening, downloading, and sharing the show. I really super appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that's put in reviews on Apple, and I think you can do that on Spotify now. So I appreciate you all liking it and doing all of those things. It is fantastic. Don't forget to check the show notes below for where to find me on Instagram, to send me an email, to go to my website, sign up for the newsletter, download your free 50-question guide on how to become more self-aware. And that is all of the things. So again, thank you so much for listening. I am overwhelmed every time I say that because I am so uberly grateful. But until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.